Welcome back to the canon for this edition of Spoiler Talk for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So, if you've seen the Guardians or if you haven't seen the Guardians, my non-spoiler review will be linked in the description. You can watch that first. But now I'm going to dig into some spoiler talk. So, I've actually seen it twice already. Yes. Saw it in 3D, non-3D. Again, like I said, you don't need to see it in 3D. But let's jump right into this. We need to all be praising Elizabeth Debicki as a goddess on this earth. I mean, come on. This pick to be Aisha was perfect. When I first heard her name being cast, I didn't know exactly what they would have her do. I didn't know that Aisha was going to be in this. And so when we first got those pictures of her in the gold, we kind of figured that's who she was playing. But man, I first got onto her from Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer. But you should see that movie if you haven't. But she was just perfect, like elegance. She reminds me of Paris Hilton, but with actual class and dignity, and that somebody that seems almost regal. So her being Aisha, the queen or the headmistress or whoever of all these genetically perfect people, just made so much sense. I think we all should just be praising her, praying for more. I'm sorry, I'm in love with her. Someone's in my eye, but I'm just in love with her. But she and the rest of the Sovereign, it's not too much to spoil. They kind of play throughout the movie. And like I said, with it being such a contained movie, I thought that was just going to be a throwaway thing at the beginning. But then we see them play a lot throughout. And then we, of course, see her play throughout one of the end credit scenes, which I'll get to later. So then we jump over to Yondu. Rest in peace to my man, Yondu. Well, I had no idea they was going to take him out and body him. So, yes, that did happen. But really, the twist with him being Quill's father, for lack of a better term, really understanding why he never took him to his father. Because, like I said, I watched the first one right before I saw the second one, and I'm thinking wow, they never really explained, or that doesn't make sense why he never delivered him to his father. Why is his father looking for him? And then we get this backstory with Ego, which we'll get to, but it's just okay, so Yondu goes from just, kind of a one-tone person, a fun one-tone character, because I think Michael Rooker's a beast, and it's just yes, we love Yondu, but then you add on these layers now, knowing that he had a lot more compassion to do what he did. It wasn't just for the money, it wasn't just him being reckless. He really broke his code, and he went against everything to save this child, and really looked at him as a kid, and then of course did the ultimate sacrifice. So I think Yondu hands down is the standout of this movie. It was just absolutely, it came out of nowhere. I never really thought that they would go that far with Yondu, but even besides the father stuff, the scenes where they're taking his crew out, that scene to me was so dark. It came out of nowhere, but Rucker really, he cemented that scene by just the look of defeat, disgust, and just, bottling that rage up as they're taking his crew out and they're yelling, "Captain, no, save me!" And they're exiling them, or pirates used to make them walk the plank, but in space they throw them out in space. And then you see the one guy that really was standing up for Yondu, he's been put out, and you see the slob and the tears freeze up. And it pans over and you see all those bodies, and I was just whoa, what movie are we in? So that was intense, but I thought that was a really needed scene to really put an emphasis on what's happening with Yondu and his crew. Then you get the masterpiece. Man, when I watched the first one and then rewatching it, I was just man, the one thing I could remember for sure is that I needed to see more of that whistle and that arrow. It was you saw one little hint of it when he was, I forgot it. It was the Kree people that surrounded him, and he hit the whistle on them, and it dropped all the bodies around. So I was just wow, that was exciting. I was I want more of that. And so Guardians 2 took that to the next level with that scene where him and Rocket are breaking out. And I don't know, I couldn't ask for more. And it's funny because we heard about that, or at least I heard about that scene coming into it from Comic-Con way back. And all people kept saying was bodies are dropping. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like Guardians. I'm like, how are they going to make that work? It worked perfectly. Because how much emotion they put into that earlier scene of seeing the loyal crew members get killed, it was easier to accept him killing all the mutiny crew members. So even though they tried to do it kind of funny, like they close up everybody going, oh, and all that, people were dying. I bet not ever hear anything about Batman or the DC being dark and oh my God, they kill people, because Marvel, they kill people all the time and we don't say nothing. And Guardians, it was very in your face how many people was dying. So that was fun though. So Yondu had a complete package, man. Like all the great scenes was with him, and then, you know, not even after he saved Star-Lord, but the funeral that really capped the movie off. And, you know, people, it was no dry eyes, man. People was messed up. And the best part about that was, I believe his name's Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother, who played the one guy left. And to see his emotion to react when they showed up to give him a Ravager funeral, that put me over the top. It was like, oh, they showed up, they're doing the lights. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. But to see like the wonderment in his eyes, like it was so important to him that his captain got sent off right. That messed me up. But anyway, going to Ego. So much to talk about with Ego. I mean, the number one thing is I shouldn't say number one. The number two thing is how they made a living planet into a character. That was really how everybody was talking about, you know, what are they going to really do with this? And we heard that he made like an avatar of himself. So I'm thinking he's got like a bunch of, you know, kind of like Ultron, bunch of clones of himself. But no, he made one really detailed, realistic human avatar that went throughout the planets and did the work he couldn't do. But he was a celestial, a god, a big brain, really. And so he could control matter and all that. And so I thought it was nice. He was a planet by creating the molecules and everything around him to make a planet to cover up his, you know, core. Not so much that he just was a planet that woke up. And then he uses those powers to create an avatar that spread his seed figuratively and literally all over the galaxy. So I think it worked well. I was afraid that Kurt Russell wouldn't be able to be Kurt Russell if they tried to make the planet talk or do too much CGI-ness, but I thought it was real nice the way they did it. It made Kurt Russell available to really act. And so the biggest thing is the plot twist that he's the villain. So I liked it. I really liked it. Because I didn't see it coming whatsoever. And it's so funny because you had Ego out in front, in center of all the promotion for years. And I think that's why it was so hard to see it coming, because it was like, we're not hiding it. We're not being secretive. It's like Kurt Russell's playing Ego, the Living Planet. Here's Ego. Here, you know, he's Star-Lord's dad. You find out he's his dad right at the beginning of the movie. We're not going to tease it. So it's like, man, okay, like this is going to be Ego. He's his dad. That's what it is. They told us. Man, we did not see that coming. So how did I feel about him freak bodying every alien around the world to make kids? And then another dark moment where they find that cave with all the skeletons. It was just like, okay, all right, yeah, we getting those moments. We got emotional, intense, dark moments throughout this movie, spread in with the comedy. So it disgusted me a little bit, and then especially because you had Star-Lord learning to tap into the light. So it's like, where is this all going? But the thing I appreciate so much about this movie is that every trope that you think is going to happen, they kind of twist it on its head a little bit. It's hard to explain every little detail, but the one I do remember profoundly is when Star-Lord gets kind of mesmerized by the grand scale of Ego's plan. And then, of course, they drop that bombshell to make the crowd go, is when he was like, you know, it hurt me to put that tumor in your mom's head. And I'm like, oh, man, like, we got to sit here for them to find Peter and get him out of the trance, and he's got to fight the trance and come back to his real self. And I was like, here we go, movie stuff. And no, Gunn turned it on his head. It was like, put that tumor in your mom. What? I started capping my man's up. So I was like, yes. I'm so glad we don't have to go through that trope. Like, he really got to the point with it. So I absolutely love that point. That's one example of where the movie just said, no, we're not going to do that typical thing and hit you with something different that made it a lot more fluid for me. And so I'm glad we didn't struggle with that. He popped right out of it. You killed my mom, started shooting, no questions asked. That was good stuff. But yeah, that was deep, man. That was deep and dark. And Kurt Russell, such a great, like, so much presence. I haven't seen a lot of movies with him in it. Of course, you know his stuff when he was younger, but man, like, Kurt commanded the screen. Like, he was a nice, cool dad, but when he had to be evil, I felt it. And I didn't know if I could get that from Kurt Russell, so I love that. But yeah, Ego, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's a play on words because ego, he had to have an ego to think he should cover the whole universe. And, you know, everything else with Ego was pretty cool. Like I said, his plan didn't make much sense to me, especially the second time I watched it. I'm like, I get what he's saying. He's trying to be everywhere so he can live forever. But it's just like, what's the point if there's no life? But I guess he was saying life is overrated. So anyway, Sylvester Stallone's in this movie, yes, and he plays a Ravager after a lot of speculation. He's like one of the head Captain Ravagers that saved Yondu and got him in the fold. And we'll get to that teaser later. But I thought Sylvester's role was cool. It was smart to keep it small. But I'm not going to lie, in the movie where people were laughing or were talking and stuff, it's not super easy to hear Sylvester Stallone pronunciate words. And he was saying somewhat important things. So I think if you really weren't paying attention, you might have lost some of the Yondu stuff. Because you gotta realize, like, when Sylvester was saying we don't deal with kids, like, you did not hear that if you weren't listening, because Sylvester mumble mouth. He's, no, we don't deal with kids. And people like, huh? Okay, so that was the only drawback, but I thought he was cool in it. And then all the Easter eggs, man, just like the Watchers, which end up coming back later. But I think you saw like some of Thanos type species too, and you saw something else. We saw Howard the Duck in there, of course. There was a lot of stuff. Even in the credits, there was like a pit when, you know, they were showing everyone dancing. There was the Grand Master was there, who is played by Jeff Goldblum in Thor Ragnarok. So that could be a hint that there's going to be some Guardians crossover at some point. But yeah, just so many Easter eggs, so many callbacks to the first movie. That's what I really like. So it was just fun. But getting to the 5 end credit scenes real quick. So number 1, which wasn't really that end credit because it was like Guardians will return, and then it goes right to the scene. But it's the Sean Gunn's character trying to control the Arrow. He's the new Yondu or the new captain. Then he stabs Drax. Funny, didn't really mean much. I mean, I guess if he plays a bigger role going forward, that's a tease right there. But it was just funny to me. And then I'm trying to go in order, but I might not. Number 2, I don't remember if this was 2 or not, but we got Teenage Groot. And of course, that's a tease for the next one, like we got with Baby Groot. I thought it was funny. I like that better than Baby Groot. Baby Groot was cool and for the oohs and ahs and the ahs, but I thought, like, okay, you could have. I mean, it wasn't a lot of Baby Groot, but I was just like, okay, I'm over it. So Teenage Groot jumping him up, that's going to be pretty funny, I think. And the way they had it set up with him and Star-Lord was funny. Then we had Aisha. That was probably the biggest one because it hinted at Adam Warlock is finally coming. Everybody thought Adam Warlock was Star-Lord's dad. Everybody was wondering when we were going to get Adam Warlock. And I know that went off. But that's going to be fun, I think, to see. And I think in the comics, Warlock started off as an enemy to the Guardians and then ended up becoming a part of the Guardians. So that works out. And Aisha and him were supposed to be equal. So I like the way they twist the story to make it fit. And then we had, what's his name? Stan Lee. The whole Watchers thing with Stan Lee, I think people taking too literal. I think Gunn was just having fun. with all the theories that he's the Watcher. So it's like, yeah, we hear your theories. Let's just throw it in there for fun. Disney said okay. Because if Disney really had plans to reveal him as a Watcher, that would be a bigger part of the cinematic story. And they wouldn't did it in Random Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That would have happened somewhere important. So I thought they were like, yeah, that wasn't the case. He does cameos. So let's just throw that in there for fun to give him what they want. Because he didn't even look like a Watcher. He was just Stan Lee in a suit. And so he clearly wasn't a Watcher, but it was just fun. And I'm trying to remember what the fifth one is. So we had Aisha. We had Groot. Oh, and then Stallone and his crew. I am not familiar if that's something in the comics or something they were hinting at. These characters look very specific with him and Ving Rhames and the other people. But I'll have to look that up. But everybody's talking about a big spin-off movie. Nothing's been announced, but I could see it happening. It'd be fun. We had Judge Dredd and Demolition Man with Stallone. So a futuristic, well, he's not a cop, but in this one he's not a bad guy, he's an anti-hero. That could be fun. Everybody still likes Stallone. So I wouldn't be mad at it, but I don't know that group of characters, but I thought it was fun. So anyway, yeah, that's most of the spoiler talk. I mean, yeah, the big twist in the movie was great. And just like, I like the Gamora thing with Nebula. That's the last thing I'll mention. One of the examples of really getting deeper into these characters. And again, this feels like the first one was just kind of, here is where we are. And I didn't like it as much as other people. And then the second one was like, okay, well, let's take all those pieces and go deeper into it. So I really, really enjoyed it because we knew Nebula and Gamora were at each other, but we were like, why? And then just that quick dialogue, that scene was like Thanos. Thanos would make us fight, and every time I would lose, he would replace a part of me with something cybernetic. And so Gamora, instead of helping me out and being my sister, she just kept beating me and letting me get replaced and be turned into a machine. And so now she wants to kill Gamora and Thanos for what happened to her. And that's that scene. She's like, Thanos ripped my eye out of my socket, my arm out of my body, my brain out of my head. I was just like, that's deep. That's terrible. So in that moment, those quick two scenes, you really felt for her and like, we understand her plight. But then the ending scene where it was like, okay, you always my sister. I was a kid. I was trying to survive, but you know, you're always my sister. I'm sorry. And Nebula, of course, not knowing how to react. She's so used to fighting, so used to being hateful that, you know, she takes a moment to love her, but doesn't say anything and leaves. So I can relate to that. I think if you can't relate to that type of stuff with siblings, then it might not hit you as hard. But I'm like, people with siblings can understand that stuff. So I don't know. I love this movie overall. I saw it twice, still 99% for me. But yeah, those are spoiler talk. So if, I'm guessing you saw the movie. Go to the comment section. Tell me some of the stuff that you liked about it. Like, thumbs up, subscribe, and if you heard of his official canon.